And of Team Lotus Box here, Nikolich second on our leaderboard right now. Very much associated with Jeskai Control as a deck.
I don't know if he's ever played another Modern deck.
Yeah, it's interesting. So this is the same 75 that we saw Luke Purcell playing, and Luke got really destroyed by Azorius Spirits earlier. We'll see whether Ben can show us how it's done. It's in a very similar matchup.
Yeah, we definitely saw a lot of prowess in that matchup on the side of Zan Sayed. Navigated that game very expertly and really put Luke in the squeeze. We'll see how Charlie Salvador is able to navigate against Ben Nikolich, who has played a ton of Jeskai Control in this format, an open champion, invitational top 8 competitor.
Yeah. Charlie did start here on Aether Vial, and that ticks up to 1. In the absence of cards like Rattle Chains, this will allow him to still basically instant speed all his creatures, which, the way Zan played it at least, was very important in the matchup.
Yep, yeah, the Jeskai Control deck is largely trying to play on the opponent's end step, and when the Banned Spirit deck takes this aggressive shell and gets to play on the Jeskai end step, that kind of turns that dynamic on its head.
And it looks like Charlie does have his one of Rattle Chains for this first game. See, on end step, he vials in Mausoleum Wanderer and then casts Rattle Chains. It's going to be Lightning Bolt on Rattle Chains for Ben. He times it because he says he wanted to time it there such that the Wanderer was still a 1/1. He didn't want it to be a 2/2. Didn't want to give Charlie the option as to which creature to save.
Mm-hmm. And that kind of thing there, I think that's where Zan was gaining a lot of points in this matchup. I think exposing the Rattle Chains to that Lightning Bolt wasn't necessary, and Charlie lost some material for that play.
Yeah. A lot of credit to, you're mentioning to how Zan knew this matchup with Azorius.
Right. Yeah, against Jeskai, especially when you already just have access to Rattle Chains that can flash in at any time, just establishing the threat, even though it's kind of anemic, the Mausoleum Wanderer, maybe vialing some things in to further your game plan down the line, leaving up the Rattle Chains on top of that, just building enough of a board presence and then backing it up with those kinds of threats like the Rattle Chains and the Draw Skull Captain that can fizzle removal spells, I think is how you want to approach this matchup.
And I know this is something, for me personally, we see Draw Skull Captain for Charlie. Banned Spirits is actually, of all the decks in Modern, is kind of the deck that I'd be most intimidated to play. This style of deck where it's like all flash cards, but it's still a creature deck. You're not aggro, but you turn the corner, but you sometimes control. Man, you need a lot. Like, this deck demands a lot of experience and really just feel, because if, like, I'm a player who likes to count out scenarios, and that is really hard to do from the Bant side.
Right. It's asking you to play the deck in a lot of different ways. You have one approach to some matchups and some hands. It's literally just dump your hand. Lords, beat down. I'm the aggressor. I get this. I have flyers. Great. You have these kind of tempo strategies where it's all about when you commit your threats, maybe even managing blockers on top of your beatdown plan. And when it comes to matchups like this, where you have creatures that are really good at warding off removal spells, but depends how you play them, the play patterns are going to vary pretty wildly from game to game.
Yeah, we see Ben Nikolich here. Going back to our match, we see firing off a Lightning Helix at Draw Skull Captain. And Supreme Phantom's going to be vialed into play for Charlie. This would pump the Wanderer up to a 3/3 and allow him to counter. And it looks like that's what he's going to do.
Yep, and protecting the Draw Skull Captain is definitely a good one. If Charlie is able to produce another Captain or a Phantasmal Image on this turn, then his creatures just have hexproof. You force Nikolich to have some kind of sweeper effect.
Yeah, Charlie, that was on Charlie's upkeep. His remaining hand is 2 lands and a Path to Exile, so it's not great.
Yeah, these leftovers are pretty poor. He does have significant battlefield presence here. He has a creature that has 3 power and one with 2 power. And they are both Lightning Bolt. They're actually, no.
Captain's
Supreme
not.
Captain's only 3 toughness. The Supreme Phantom has 4 toughness, but once you can still deal with the Captain.
Yeah, Charlie missing there. I think Ben has a pretty decent window to pick this apart. 1 Lightning Helix, 1 Snapcaster Mage, or 1 Lightning Bolt will take care of the Draw Skull Captain.
And the way it's set up, unless Charlie can pick up possibly another Wanderer, certainly a Spell Queller, something like a Settle the Wreckage can come in and just reset Charlie's board entirely.
Yeah, Ben refreshes the mana and untaps. We'll see if he can just start that chain. Against a deck with so many lords, there's this kind of domino effect that once you start getting one creature, the next creature's easier to kill, and then the next one's easier to kill.
Right.
See if Ben can get those dominoes falling.
And the reason it's so important to sequence your threats in a way that lines up with your opponent's removal is Supreme Phantom gets so good when you're able to protect it, when you're able to get your lords up to 4 toughness, and then Lightning Bolt's just not a card. But when it's just a 1/3, it's not really doing anything for you.
And you see here, Lightning Helix into Snapcast by Nikolich, doing it main phase. He doesn't want Charlie to get to untap with that Aether Vial. Yes, he was exposing himself to Spell Queller there. We decided, yeah, that's just how it's going to have to be.
Right, that's going to be a thing at some point or another, right? His deck is just flush with removal spells. Eventually, one of them has to walk into the Queller.
Charlie takes up to 3. His draw was Noble Hierarch. But now Ben looks to be gaining control of the board, draws Lightning Bolt. He's been missing a couple lands, but as his deck has continued to give him removal spells and Snapcaster Mage, that's been largely okay.
Right. Also has been sitting on this Logic Knot, which inevitably will be able to convert against something. Turns off Collected Company as a big draw for Charlie.
Yeah, I was going to say it hits very few things because of that Aether Vial, but Collected Company is the card Ben's most scared of, and it does hit that.
Right. We're also at a spot where it could hit some 2-mana card, I don't know, Selfless Spirit, another Supreme Phantom, because the Vial has cranked up to 3.
Do you assume Ben will just try to trade that as at first chance because of how conditional it is?
It depends on the impact of the 2-mana spell and whether he has a removal spell. Yeah, ideally, you want to catch Collected Company with it.
Okay, so if you could beat the card otherwise, maybe even hold.
Right.
Charlie offers a trade of Noble Hierarch for Snapcaster. Nikolich accepts.
Yeah. And Nikolich just has a handful of spells. We see he has not had a 5th land, so he's pretty wont to just trade things. You know, the Snapcaster Mage, maybe it crosses the finish line, maybe it doesn't. In the meantime, he should be able to cover whatever Charlie casts.
Charlie's hand is right now Phantasmal Image, Collected Company, Path to Exile. You can tell from his posturing that he drew something. Now he's deciding when to try to time that Collected Company. He'll just say go for now, but it's going to be hard to get Ben to tap his mana. He says go, Charlie goes for Collected Company. That should eat a counterspell.
Yeah, that's certainly worth a Logic Knot.
And Ben was going to go for Teferi. What I thought would have been interesting is if Ben had drawn land 5, do you think he would have even gone for Teferi, or do you think, or would he paid Collected Company enough respect to just hang out?
I would be surprised to see him jam Teferi the way this game's playing out, especially with the way, you know, Salvador's been playing a lot of his turns pretty quick, and that one, there's a little bit of posturing as if he had a spell that mattered. That would really signal to play that Teferi a little safer.
I guess with the board as clean as it is, Ben doesn't need Teferi to be winning because he's already winning.
Right. And then down the line, you get a battlefield like this where Salvador is just kind of tapping all of his mana. On the following turn, a Teferi would be pretty good.
This is tough. Selfless Spirit. He made that. Now he thought about going for Phantasmal Image. I'm glad to see some restraint on his side here. That to me seems. This is very aggressive. Just one removal spell and everything is gone.
Yeah, against your Jeskai opponent who has missed the 5th land drop for multiple turns.
Yeah, I'm just so out. Ben draws Jace. He has a 6-card hand.
I think there are 2 Jaces in the holding now as well.
And such patience on Ben's side. There's no reason to do anything. He'll path away the Selfless Spirit. Yeah, did not sacrifice the spirit. He exiled it, so we'll go ahead and get that guy off into exile.
Yeah, that is actually technically relevant. There is one Moorland Haunt in Salvador's build of Banned Spirits.
Yeah. You might ask, well, hey, he put it in the graveyard. Doesn't that mean he's sacrificing it? Situation where the intent, a judge will rule this one by intent.
That sounds like a ruling from 2001.
Yeah, where they'd be like, you put it in the graveyard, and sorry, man, you sacked it.
It's in the bin. You don't get a basic.
Put that deck down. Snapcaster Mage on Lightning Bolt. End step from Ben. And I like just his role assessment here. There's so many draw spells, and I think a less seasoned Jeskai pilot would be inclined to try to cast some of them. you know, and instead Ben is just everything's a removal spell, nothing else.
Yep.
And it's boring. It means that you have all these cool mythic rares and you don't get to play any of them, which for me is like really hard not to do because I really like casting those cards, but it's correct. And I like how Ben is doing
If I'm
that.
playing a game that I'm not losing and I have multiple mythic rares I haven't cast, that's the best feeling for me.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, they're going to do something and then I'm going to cast this to Fairy and they're going to lose.
Or you're just not going to cast it. But
Right.
yeah,
or I'll show them that I had it when they talk about draws they had, and I can tell them how it was futile the whole time. That's the best.
Snapcaster Mage on Phantasm Mage on Snapcaster Mage, flashing back Collected Company.
Yeah, that's pretty significant.
Nice.
We'll see what kind of hits we have on this one.
And you got to be a little worried if he hits, say, like 2 Drogskull Captains, he can force Ben to have a Supreme Verdict.
Sweeper, yeah.
Which, you know, Ben plays, fair enough, but
looks like a pretty weak one. I think Phantasmal Image and Spell Queller being pulled towards the front here.
If he had 4 more mana, maybe he could flash back another company. Yeah. And that's just going to be just a pair of 2/3 flyers.
Not the best.
Not the best. I mean, it's a board.
Yeah, the Jace gets to just minus on one of these images on the following turn, presumably the Spell Queller.
Yeah. A fancy turn from Charlie. I don't think it's going to be enough.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, I like the play.
And Nikolich just had a brainstorm, got to shuffle away one of the cards there. See where he's able to go from here, and this is scary. The fact that he's brainstorming here when he very easily just has this line to hit your Phantasmal Image, I am worried that he already has some pretty good stuff.
At every other point in this game, when Ben had the option of drawing cards versus removing creatures, he's picked removing creatures. The fact that now he is picking the other one means that in Ben's mind, the equation has changed, which is all sorts of concerning from Charlie's
I'm
viewpoint.
pretty sure there's an Electrolyze, which if he chooses to target both images, he won't get to draw a card.
That's so sad.
But I guess he'll have to settle for destroying 2 creatures.
He could leave the fake Snapcaster Mage.
Yeah, that's totally reasonable. Just hit the
And then you get to
flyer,
draw a card.
hit Charlie, draw a card. I'm pretty into that.
Here's Electrolyze. No card draw.
Loose.
Wow.
What do you hate value?
Well, and he has no attack with Snapcaster. What are you even? I guess he could Violin a Geist.
Yeah,
Sure.
that would be pretty devastating.
All right.
This is Nikolich's favorite phase of the game.
I love control decks, so I've been playing blue, white, and standard. And I'll have a Baral in out of the sideboard. I've been playing Control Mirror, and at one point I just won't be attacking with it. And everyone will be like, dude, you could just be attacking me with this Baral. And then I was looking at it and be like, I don't know, you might have kept in a seal away. Just like, this is how little I care about damage.
I'm not trying to squeak one out here.
Right.
I don't think this game is close.
I'd be like, it's free. And I'd be like, yeah. If it's free, then I could just as soon not do it.
Yeah.
I value damage this little.
Right. I don't need your charity-free damage.
And now we have a situation where both players are playing off the top, but one of them has Jace the Mind Sculptor. We'll see how this one goes.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever seen...
I've seen this movie before.
Oh. Don't spoil the ending.
All right. Now Teferi joins Jace.
The sequel.
Yeah. Charlie shuffles up the hand. There we go. And we'll pick up the cards. 2 Planeswalkers is enough. Game 1 goes over to Ben Nikolich.
If you liked Draw, Brainstorm, Go, you'll love Draw, Brainstorm, cast a spell, untap 2 lands, your turn.
Yeah, that one's even nicer. Once they start discarding, then it's once they start discarding removal spells to hand size that I really get into it.
Yeah, it's a much higher budget production, and it really shows.
All right. So, Ben Nikolich faring a bit better against Spirits. He takes game 1. We'll go ahead and look over at the sideboards. appreciably, I know we went through this matchup in sideboard when Zan was playing against Luke Purcell. Bant versus blue-white. Looking at Ben Nikolich's sideboard, does it change? Is there a different tact, or is it close enough that we play it the same?
The one difference is you are suddenly concerned about collected company, so Dispel gains some value. I usually like having one copy of Dispel against decks that are playing collected company, especially one that's on the more aggressive side, whereas you want to be casting your removal spells, and you don't always get to cast them at opportune times. Whereas if you're only able to leave up 1 mana and they're setting up a situation where they're trying to carve out a spot to cast Collected Company, Dispel is the best possible card for you to have in your hand at that point in time. So I do like at least one of those coming in, which is going to be a difference. The rest of the stuff, though, I mean, Lyra and Baneslayer Angel didn't get worse, and I'm not seeing anything else that got better.
Now, Charlie, because he has access to green cards, I was going to say has a bit of a different sideboard. He has 2 green cards now. He has Gaddock Teague and Tamiyo Field Researcher, something that Zan's deck couldn't have played. And to be honest, I might be interested in both of them out of the sideboard.
Gotta say, Gaddock Teague is a nice one. And if Tamiyo's not for the grindy controlling matchups, I'm not really sure what it's for.
Right. It's a card I don't usually see here, but I would assume it's coming in.
I don't know if there's a matchup. I guess Death Shadow would be a good spot to use the -2 ability to press an advantage there.
It'd probably be good in the mirror.
Yeah. This is a very peculiar one, because if you just want a 4-mana Planeswalker, there's a lot of really powerful options in Modern. I have to figure that the nod is probably specifically that matchup, like Grixis Shadow, because you just want to tap down large creatures and the damage ratio is otherwise close. Whereas something like Gideon Ally Zendikar, Jace the Mind Sculptor would be better in this matchup.
That's what I was thinking of too. When I think of very powerful 4-mana Planeswalkers, I look at the ones that people play in Legacy. You know, that's Gideon and Jace.
Even Garruk Relentless is a card that sees play in Legacy that arguably could be more impactful than Tamiyo, or at least in different situations it would do more.
Other things we saw, Thalia, Guardian of Thraben, those were in Zan's main deck. I assume Charlie will want them after sideboard here.
Taxing your collected companies is a real cost for the Bant version of the deck.
That's true, it is worse. Enough that you maybe stay away from this card?
We'll see exactly how Salvador plays it. My read is that I would want Thalia specifically for combo matchups with the Bant version, and I'm not as interested in casting it against a Jeskai deck.
That's fair. Charlie also, he has 2 Geists. He can bring himself up to 3 Geists post-board. I am interested in that.
Yeah, definitely on board with Geist. It's a powerful Magic the Gathering card.
It's like very selectively powerful. You know, there's matchups like this where they're incredible. And then, you know, there's matchups like the Mirror where the card's just terrible.
Right.
When your opponent doesn't play creatures, you really punish them with Geist of St. Traft.
Yeah, and until about a year ago, Geist of St. Traft was one of the cards that would be in the main deck sometimes and frequently in the sideboard for Jeskai control. Now, much to the interest of Benjamin Nikolich, the deck is just trying to do nothing in every matchup.
I like that. You know, how much of that is because of the card Teferi, Hero of Dominaria?
I think that made the deck way more in on it. I want to say Search for Azcanta was the tipping point, and Teferi just fully pushed it in that, where it's just stopped making any sense for you to register Geist of St. Traft in your Jeskai deck.
Yeah, because we see that in Standard. I know right now I'm looking at post-rotation because I've been playing blue-white, and I think, okay, putting Teferi, such a powerful card in my deck, makes me want to stop playing any other win condition.
I want to do whatever I can to make my Teferi as good as possible.
Right. You know, but it's like I see it and I feel like, well, I don't really, like, okay, maybe I have to play one win con. I'll pick some blue or white mythic rare from one of the sets. It will be fine. Like, I'll be honest, right? I don't want you to just, like, I don't want you to, like, Lost Legacy me game 1 and then get embarrassed, but... And I feel like Teferi pulled the Standard deck in that way, and Teferi, and yes, Teferi plus Search, pulled Standard that way, and it feels like it's pulling Modern that way, too.
Right. Yeah, when you have such a powerful win condition, yeah, you definitely don't want to end up in a spot where you just draw too many proactive things when so much of your deck is based on reacting.
Charlie Salvador keeping on 6 here. He's on the play.
Mulliganing against a deck that is so heavy on spot removal is going to make it so Charlie really needs to execute with some collected companies in this game.
Keeps his scries to the top. We'll start with Noble Hierarch from Salvador. Tap land here for Nikolich. We do have Spell Queller and Thalia. A good 1-2 there. I like situations where you first tax their mana, and then when they spend the extra mana, you counter it anyway.
Yes.
Hierarch swings for 1, and Thalia joins the party.
Yeah, the nice thing about Thalia is you have a battlefield that's technically vulnerable to Electrolyze, but it can't be cast until Nikolich has 4 mana.
Nikolich has Search for Azcanta there, but that's not going to do anything. He still has a turn off from really playing cards.
Yeah, nice little tempo swing there.
Charlie's hand, a second Noble Hierarch, a Gaddock Teeg, a Supreme Phantom, and a Spell Queller. So he wants to play this. It looks like on Nikolich's side he has a Path to Exile at the front of his hand.
Yep, first 2 lands are just blue-white, but that is still a spell that he can cast.
So Hierarch's going to cast a second Hierarch. Let's see, Thalia, Exalt on in. He'll get hit by Path to Exile. No damage there. Charlie will get a land, though.
And now Nikolich would love to just play untapped Red Source, Electrolyze both of your Hierarchs.
Yeah.
Look, from that position, you would be pretty firmly in the driver's seat.
Yeah, Charlie in hand is going to have a Gaddock Teeg here.
Teeg's fine.
Yeah, it's Teeg or no, I was going to say Teeg or Phantom. He can't even play Phantom here, so it's going to be Teeg.
Yeah, there's 2 green-white lands.
Yeah. And there we have our Kithkin.
It is pretty amusing that Salvador's build of Band Spirits here plays multiple creatures that are taxing to Nikolich's archetype, but also are restrictive of the best card in Salvador's deck in the matchup, the Collected Companies.
Ryan, so Ben made Search for Azcanta but missed land 3. And this is going to be a ton of damage. You see right now as Noble Hierarch is going to send away that Horizon Canopy.
Yeah, the Gaddock Teeg currently is able to attack for 4 here.
Yeah, well, and keep in mind, Teeg plus Spell Queller locks out the next card no matter what it is.
Yeah, if it's cheap, it gets quelled. If it's expensive, it can't even be cast.
Teeg rumbles in for 4, Ben down to 15. So it's going to take 4 more hits of that. And Salvador will pass, leaving up Spell Queller.
Some good restraint there. He does have a Selfless Spirit in hand. No reason to commit anything else to the battlefield here. Just leave up that Queller, protect that Teeg.
Yeah, he can make Spell Queller or Selfless Spirit next turn and leave up the Spell Queller.
Exactly.
It's looking really good. And Ben just has to continue passing. Things have taken a turn for the worse here.
We found another Manosaurus, but is this?
Is he gonna bring in the? Was he thinking about end stepping the Queller?
He gave it a thought.
Okay. I like where the thought ended up. I'm not very into that.
Yeah. He's able to really aggressively pressure Nikolich with the battlefield he already has. Yeah. And the Spell Queller protects against anything, while the Gaddock Teeg already protects you against a sweeper.
I like the Selfless Spirit here. And he'll make that pre-combat, swing on in with Teeg for 4, Ben down to 11. Even if Ben was playing a Rogue Terminus, right now Charlie's board is protected from that.
Can't cast it.
Yeah, it's just this board is becoming very difficult to clean up.
There's Flooded Strand for Nikolich. That represents Red Source, but if he wants it on tap this turn, he's going to have to shock for it. From 11, that's pretty dicey. Looks like there's a Vendilion Click hovering in the front of Nikolich's hand. So with the double Noble Hierarch and the Gaddock Teeg just keep shipping in, that's not an effective blocker. And given the fact that the damage is the same way either way, whether it's Gaddock Teeg or Selfless Spirit, I would assume that's the way the combat continues to progress.
Supreme Phantom, the play here for Charlie. This means that Selfless Spirit can swing in for 5, and that's what he'll do. That would send Ben down to 6.
Right, yeah, that changes the damage, and it also makes it so the Selfless Spirit attacks with 4 toughness, so the Spirit attack is still just good against the Vendilion Click.
Yeah. There's Vendilion Click, and we'll see whether Charlie Spell Quells it. You almost feel like he has to, because otherwise he's going to lose the Spell Queller anyway. I like this. Spell Quells away the Click. Selfless Spirit should insulate him from most plays that Ben could have.
Right. And executing that means he's still just good for a lot of damage on this turn. Nikolich's life total is getting very low.
Down to 10, down to 8 now for Nikolich. Finds Steam Vents.
With this, it looks like it's coming untapped. I assume we must be dealing with Exalted triggers on the stack.
Yeah, looks that way. And that's Sacred Foundry. My apologies. So he will Path to Exile. Yeah, can't help. That one can't be helped. Away the Spell Queller. Gets his Vendilion Click back. He still can't profitably block here. Spell Queller, or Selfless Spirit, is all the way up to a 5/4.
And it looks like Nikolich does have Supreme Verdict in hand, but he needs to deal with Gaddock Teeg and Selfless Spirit, because that's just blocking for Gaddock Teeg before he's able to cast that one.
Yeah. He sees Charlie's hand. It's a Botanical Sanctum. And he will chump block with the Vendilion Click.
Yeah, he's not going to be able to turn this one around aggressively, and that block, it gains him some life, potentially buys him some time, but he really just needs to be able to cast multiple removal spells really quickly and be able to follow up with the Supreme Verdict.
Yeah, that's so hard to do, though, because like you said, there's 2 cards stopping Supreme Verdict.
Right.
Can he maybe just Snapcaster Mage his way out of this if he had something like Bolt, Snapcaster, Bolt? Maybe that's easier to put together than this Supreme Verdict line? Something that just starts to chip away each of them?
Eventually, he does need to Supreme Verdict, but first he needs to deal with these 2 creatures. But then the Noble Hierarchs just make things pretty lethal pretty easily.
They're actually threats.
Right.
Yeah.
So you have to clean up both the Spirit and the Gaddock Teeg first. That's definitely step 1.
Right.
But he will need to follow up with that Supreme Verdict after that's accomplished.
It's Lightning Helix at Gaddock Teeg. Charlie can choose whether to keep the Teeg or to sacrifice, or to keep the Selfless Spirit. Ben will go up to 11, and it looks like Gaddock Teeg gonna hit the graveyard.
Given that this turns on Cryptic commands, I think I would have liked to sacrifice the Selfless Spirit. You're still insulated against Supreme Verdict specifically.
Right. Charlie here, his attacking ability has diminished a lot here. Well, actually, it's about the same. He's still swinging for 5, but it's less secure. He's lost the Teeg. Now, if he loses the Selfless Spirit, the board could go with it.
Right.
He's thinking about swinging both. That's actually a big damage cost. So he's just going to swing Supreme Phantom. It's giving up 2 damage to put Ben just down to 8.
I think he's considering cards like Condemn and Blessed Alliance.
Okay.
Reasonable to have them on your mind. You know, we know that they're not in Nikolich's deck, but they are cards that conceivably be available.
It is a bit of a cost to the clock, so I like him thinking about those things. I don't know if 2 damage, that might be too steep of a price.
Mm-hmm.
Ben draws, just says go. Did not mill with Azcanta.
That's scary.
Yeah. Another Noble Hierarch picked up for Charlie. So that can make this a 2-turn clock. And I think he'll go ahead and try for it.
Yeah, it's not like sandbagging the Noble Hierarch to follow up against Supreme Verdict is going to amount to anything.
Swing for 4 from the Phantom. Nikolich down to 4. I'll have to just think about that next turn. Here is Snapcaster Mage.
He's going to point something at that Selfless Spirit. Be it Path to Exile, be it Lightning Helix, whichever.
I like him picking Path here.
Yeah, you maintain the Helix if you want to gain the life later. That makes sense.
Paths away the Selfless Spirit. No more basics in Salvador's deck.
Yeah, one of each already on the battlefield.
And now he's got to know that his second way to stop Supreme Verdict is leaving. So the sweeper head, for the first time in the game, will be online during Ben's next turn.
Looks like Salvador possibly thinking about sacrificing the Spirit, but also possibly considering a card in hand. I don't know if he has a Collected Company available to him.
Yeah, it'd be that or a Spell Queller, I think. If you have a Spell Queller, I'd wait for the Supreme Verdict to call that.
Right.
Colonnade milled over here for Nikolich. That is his, well, back to being his 5th card in the graveyard. The Snapcaster Mage removed one.
Yeah. He already has a Colonnade, so the value of it being that specific land, pretty low. Reasonable to bin that one.
And here is the Supreme Verdict. So let's get a check. Is that last card in Charlie's hand Spell Queller? I do not believe so. It's Collected Company. He accidentally flipped it over. So, well, now Ben knows.
Right. You could cast it in response to try to find a Queller or a Selfless Spirit.
Or he can let it happen and
then cast it end step.
With Ben at 4, this seems like the much stronger play to me.
Right.
You don't need to hit too much to just have a lethal swing.
Exactly. Many of your combinations will just be lethal in the following turn.
I mean, he's thinking here, I mean, you just got to cast it, right? Is there a reason to...
I don't think it gets better over time. I mean, like, you're playing into something like Dispel if it's available, but that's going to continue to be true.
All right, top 6. Looking for 4 points of damage. That shouldn't be too hard to find. And does he? Mausoleum Wanderer and Drog Skull Captain. Yeah, that's 4. You also think it has Selfless Spirit possible in here.
Right. Yeah, that doesn't really make a difference. I think as long as you, I guess, pick the Captain as the best one.
Drew another company. Here's a swing for 4. Nikolich will pick up cards. Going on to game 3.
Yeah, so Nikolich was able to weather the initial parts of the storm, but that Collected Company cleaned up really nice for Salvador. That's about the best follow-up when your opponent destroys all your creatures.
Yeah. And really a game where Nikolich hurt on lands for a while. Wasn't clear.
He was off.
Could do much. I mean, that Teague plus Selfless Spirit was worth a lot of damage.
Right, yeah. Nikolich was off red mana for a pretty significant portion of the game. Even when he got to 4 mana, he had to do some cleaning house before he was able to even cast Supreme Verdict. But now Nikolich does get to be on the play. Hopefully with a little bit better mana situation for his sake.
Yeah, and it felt close. Nikolich did finally set up. He spent the whole game trying to turn on the Supreme Verdict and actually got to the spot where it worked. He left Charlie with 1 card. The card, unfortunately, was Collected Company.
Right. That's really one of the strengths of the Banned Spirits deck.
Right.
It's not just the tricky and fancy play. It's also just the fact that Collected Company can be worth so much damage just on your opponent's end step.
Yeah, it's a lot of value, and then there also just are some higher variance hits that are incredible. You know, if you ever happen to company into 2 Drog Skull Captains, for example, that's really hard to deal with from most decks.
Right, yeah, you demand a sweeper. So all your spirits have hexproof.
Right.
That's a really big problem for the Path Exile Lightning Bolt deck. All right, looks like Nikolich has kept on 7. Salvador took a really quick mulligan.
He actually was on 6 last game as well, but was able to make it work.
Yeah.
Now, if you have not want to get a chance to talk about a lot about that earlier match between Luke Purcell and Zan Sayed, you can find all our matches on our YouTube page of StarCityGames.com. So you can find that. We have full event coverage of all our previous events available. We also have our best of the SCG Tour. We have Commander versus, our regular versus videos, and then we have a new thing called Flashback. If you haven't had a chance to see that, get to know some of their players on the tour and hear their stories about how they got here. Just subscribe so you can find our YouTube page, youtube.com/StarCityGames.
Yeah, Flashback is a really cool feature. We've done pieces on Todd Anderson, Jim Davis, and Brad Nelson was the most recent. They're all really excellent. All kinds of Magic content on the YouTube page.
Peek from Ben Nikolich here, so we'll take a look too. We see Selfless Spirit, Supreme Phantom, Geist of St. Traft, Drog Skull Captain, and then 2 more lands, a Plains and a Horizon Canopy. It's actually a pretty good hand.
Yeah, his hand isn't bad. Access to 2 and 3 on the mana curve. Geist of St. Traft, about the best spell in the deck if he's able to resolve it. Gets protected by all 3 of the other creatures against things like Snapcaster Mage blocking it. Pretty strong amount of pressure for Nikolich to have access to Logic Knot when the Geist is cast.
Nikolich, though, he knows he has a turn off, so he'll go ahead and go for Search for Azcanta here. Collected Company picked up for Charlie. His deck's going to go off once he hits these lands.
Yeah, this hand is looking mighty nice.
And we see he has a choice of 2 drops. Is it Supreme Phantom or Selfless Spirit? He goes with Selfless Spirit, makes the 2-1.
Yeah, that applies more pressure more quickly.
Because it also, if it survives, it's a better play into something like Geist of St. Traft.
Right.
That way, otherwise you might be worried about you make turn 3 Geist, your opponent makes turn 4 Supreme Verdict. And then, well,
that's no good.
Yeah, this will stop it. I like the choice. Search for Azcanta kept him a card this turn. From Nikolich's side, we go for Electrolyze, 1 and 1. Because how the targets were chose, Charlie can sack or not. This card will still happen for Ben.
Yeah, even though he did not see a hand with Spell Quellers or Rattle Chains, I do like the main phasing there. He fetches and shocks to do it, but he knows the Electrolyze is good.
Spell Queller was drawn for Charlie here. He'll make Geist of St. Traft. Now, sitting on 4 cards in hand for Charlie, he's got Queller, Supreme Phantom, Drog Skull Captain, and Collected Company. It's a lot to work through. We'll see if Ben can do it.
And Nikolich knew about this Geist, so I'd be amazed if he had no plan for it.
Mills over Baneslayer Angel with that Search for Azcanta. I don't know if he has a 4th land. And he does not, just passes.
Possibly Supreme Verdict, no 4th land / white source here.
If that's true, this is a tough spot because Charlie has drawn Spell Queller. Now, we'll see if he can show the restraint to just not cast anything. That's a pretty big deal. Or whether he wants to go for Drog Skull Captain. Captain plus Geist is actually doesn't really change much. You know, it already has Hexproof.
Right. It puts you up to 3 toughness against a potential blocking Snapcaster Mage. Though that can just get spell quelled if you're really concerned about it.
Swing for 6 from the Geist. Ben down to 9. If I'm on Charlie's side, despite all these great cards, I'd like to see him just pass the turn back.
Yep, I agree.
And looks like Field of Ruin from Ben.
Probably finding Plains. I'd be pretty surprised if Supreme Verdict wasn't in the holding.
Yeah, he's finding the Plains in case Supreme Verdict happens. It'd be nice. Oh, Charlie's debating here. If he floats the Mana Rhine, he can Collected Company right now. Is that worth it?
That's really aggressive. Given that he already has Spell Queller, I would be very interested because he just has lethal if it's Supreme Verdict. Because you get to Spell Queller the Supreme Verdict, untap, cast a Lord, then
kill him.
You just have lethal damage. doing anything. That's the script I would follow extremely closely.
Yeah, and I like that Charlie stopped to think about that play because it is interesting. His opponent, Ben, gave him that option.
Right.
But to both think about it and then decline it, I'm all about this.
Yep. Yeah, he saw that the line was available, realized, after considering it, you know what, this is probably going to clean up.
Exactly. So yeah, Ben we've already put in the damage from that attack. So yeah, now Ben is at 9. And we pass. 6 cards. So Ben can, by transforming, search for Azcanta. If he draws a land and has Path plus Verdict, he might not be colded here by the Spell Queller.
Right, yeah. If he has either a red or a white source to go with this to cast some 1-mana removal spell.
Exactly. Draws for turn, finds something. I don't think it was the land. I think it was a Path. Yeah, he's got Bolt and Path in hand. He's having troubles with this Geist of St. Traft. So I like that he just passes the turn. And now do you think we might see some strange plays, stuff like Path the Angel token?
I think that would buy some time.
Yeah. Here's a swing. Will Ben go to 3, or will he Path a token to gain 4?
I mean, if he just takes the damage this turn and doesn't answer the Geist, he's forced to Path the Angel in the following turn.
Right. Looks like he will go to 3. On Charlie's side, I still might not do anything. Life's going well.
Yeah, I'm still quite interested in just hanging back.
And so is he. Great play. Ben going to use Azcanta. I still don't know if I want to do anything on Charlie's side.
No. I mean, you just have Lethal Attacker.
Yeah.
You're already forcing the action.
Lightning Helix is in the top 4, along with Teferi. Helix is pretty attractive. He'll go for Cryptic Command.
That card costs a lot of mana.
Yeah, it sure does.
If he's able to make it out of these turns, theoretically, you can convert that. It'll be good to have backup to have down the road. It's not going to help him immediately.
Here's land 5, so Cryptic plus Path or Cryptic plus Bolt is now online. He ships the turn back to Charlie. Will Charlie company here? I am a little interested now in Eclectic Company.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not like Cryptic Command can push you off Geist of St. Traft.
Well, specifically, if Charlie finds Selfless Spirit in this company, I'm really into it because then he doesn't have to quell a Supreme Verdict.
Yeah, and there's just nothing at instant speed that's going to take you off Geist.
Yeah.
So if this gets countered, whatever. He still has that Spell Queller backup.
I don't know if he's going for it, actually. This Temple Garden looks like it might be tapped.
Yeah, it looks pretty tapped to me.
Yeah, also hitting a Lord on end step there seems like it would have been okay to make the Geist a 3/3.
Yeah.
Ben is at 3.
I will, it.
We'll actually pause. We'll confirm where we are, by the way. I think we are still on end step.
All right. Yeah, I like this company. I was going to say that Charlie is pretty far ahead one way or the other, but the company here seems pretty free to cast. He has an abundance of cards in hand, and just the existence of that Spell Queller is a big deal in his favor.
And I love him finding Selfless Spirit here. He's going to find it and Thalia. That's just going to be a huge pain for Nikolich.
Yeah, I mean, that makes it so Cryptic Command is just all of Nikolich's mana.
And then it gets Spell Queller.
Spell Queller safely catches it.
Yeah, Nikolich can no longer beat Spell Queller because of that company, right?
Yep. Yeah, that Thalia makes it cost all of his mana. There's
Great.
no follow-up. It gets quelled. That's game.
Nikolich fetches down to 2. Very patient game from Charlie. This is really, he had some inexperience, I think, in the first game, and he's really redeemed himself this game. This is the type of game where his play looked simple, but it wasn't at all. He showed some great restraint here and was able to pilot in the win.
Yep, and you saw him pause a couple times, really think about what's going on in the game, and he ended up making the right decision every time there. I think that game was very well navigated by Charlie Salvador, and you see him picking up the match 2-1.
Yeah, and that you can see now why he is at 6-0. One more, and we'll send him into day 2.